Hello again, my name is Ash and this is Zero Ash Podcast. Now we're gonna talk about the album which would be strange to miss and keep silent about it too. It is clear that in its content not much can be told and analyzed in this release, but I would still like to suggest you to listen to it for one simple reason. This album, like no other in such way, is really made with a soul and love because it was heard that the band itself enjoyed writing and performing the good old songs of the 80s and 90s. And yes, this album also offers a reason to re-listen once again the originals if you forgot them, and listen to the originals if you have not listened to the music of the 80s and 90s. This is Weezer, American rockers known for their work since the end of the 90s, with a huge range of tracks and albums to which the public and critics treats differently, and each of the subgroups of listeners is waiting either for an old kind rock sound or more or less light sound close to indie rock. Generally, to be honest, this release was an accident, again as far as I know, because it was originally planned for the release of Black Album by the group in its early spring of the year. That is, it was planned like normal release, this Black Album. Nevertheless, thanks to the memes and Twitter, a few months ago a cover appeared on the track Africa by Toto, which is considered to be one of the old school pop rock bands, very common due to the memes. As a result, the cover had a very good success among the public, and the guys obviously decided that they could beat and perform the whole album with the covers to old songs and arrange such a disco from the 80s, 90s, etc. So yes, this album is called Teal, as can be seen from the color of the album's cover, which shows the actual band in the style of 80s and 90s. Personally, the cover reminds me of the GTA Vice City video game, where the characters were dressed in a very similar way. That is, as we see from the cover art and the general message that it conveys, the album will contain tracks from the 80s and 90s, and the group will sing and play them in their usual manner and without losing the feeling of nostalgia for the time in which I never did live. I never lived. That would be more correct to say. Whatever. As is clear from the track list of this album, it contains 10 covers of classic pop, rock, R&B tracks from 20 and 30 years ago. Tellingly, each of these tracks sounds as close as possible to the originals, except for the track No Scrubs, which in the original sounds like any other pop/R&B tracks from the late 90s. Here, almost each of the covers largely repeats the original, making it clear that even nowadays, these tracks are still relevant in sound and content. Of course, one can argue that the originals are more authentic and stronger, but I personally appreciated reduced pathos and drama in the cover of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, smooth playing from guitarists and even vocals in the Paranoid track that for me sounds stronger and better today in comparison with the original, and the track No Scrubs sounded completely new in the pop rockish sound. As a result, as you can see, there is not so much that can be discussed and told. One can only turn on and enjoy how nostalgia for old Western music fills absolutely every fiber of the soul. Naturally, nothing particularly original, but it was done with an understanding of the matter, and as a result gives a very good charge of positive emotions, which I personally lacked in the music releases of recent months and years. Yes, these are covers, and yes, in some places they've got their weaknesses, but from me, 3.5 out of 5 is fully deserved. And yes, of course, we expect a normal album soon. So, that's it for now. Thanks for listening to this short review. If you liked it, please give it a like, and if you're here for the first time, please consider subscribing. Also, leave a comment about whether you've listened to this album or not, whether you liked it or not, and about what should I review next in my future podcast. And that's it for now. Thanks for listening. This was Zero Ash Podcast, and you'll hear me next time. Goodbye.